now we're gonna go talk a little bit about Thaniel because
All right.
I wanted to talk about one of your amazing talents. You know, it's like you had this amazing ability to direct the shots. You know, you had the
Oh, thank you.
finding the camera angles, finding what the character, what the scene was about, and really kind of getting that point across. And how did you kind of have those inclinations? Like, what do you
Well,
think?
like I said before earlier, when it comes to my introduction to comics, I'm a film guy first, and the comics was like a secondary. Now, had my generation had like YouTube, I probably wouldn't even be in comics, but we had those, either a Super 8 camera or those big giant ones with the VHS tape in it. And that was not something that, everybody had access to. And even then, I mean, I don't even know what you would edit on back then. So, home movies were out of the question. I used to do little recordings and all that, but even that can only take you so far. So, my love for cinematic storytelling, which is a lot different than comic books. Like cinematic storytelling is more subdued. There's not a lot of forced angles and characters coming at the camera. It's more pan back, long shots, medium shots. But for the type of story you were telling, it was a perfect, fit of like, hey, we're not telling an action story. We're telling more of a drama thriller than we are, look at Thaniel, the superhero. Like, especially with, like, once again, not giving away the twist, but with the plot turn, it was like, oh yeah, this is definitely a lot deeper than you would expect from like anything, Captain Underpants or something like that.
No, I wanted to do something that was real to me. Like for me with Thaniel, I experienced a lot of death in my life. I lost my mom.
Right.
I lost my grandma recently at that point. And all four of my grandparents had passed away, and I kind of felt like I was surrounded by death, and I felt responsible, like in a weird way. I felt like I was to blame. I felt like I could have done more. There was something I could have done.
Right.
And this to me was like kind of my love letter to them of how I was feeling, how I tried to embody that for myself.
Right.
And I'm really proud of the work we did on that together, man.
Yeah. And, I'm proud of the work, but I've always said, I feel like an old grandpa, but me and my wife said, we're proud of you. Like, you took it for a kid your age, man, you especially at the time, you were real young. I was like, man, this guy's like 50 years old. Like, he got an old soul. So, you were always doing things that 20-year-old me wasn't doing. I was still, playing video games and saving the princess from another castle. By that time, you were trying to build some comic book empire. So I was a little bit jealous and embarrassed by your ambition. I'm joking. I was proud of it. But
thanks, man. No, you're doing it too, man.
Yeah, you took it and you took what you're supposed to do with pain and trauma, in my opinion, and mechanized it to a life. Like I always tell my wife, she just recently lost her father. And my mom just actually had a massive stroke, and that really got me shooken up too. But I think the best thing you can do is live your life to the fullest. And I don't mean pleasure seeking. I mean like be as successful and thrive as much as you possibly can to honor your family name.
Exactly.
And I know that sounds very like primitive, but I'm all about that. Like when people say Huddleston, I want them to think awesome things, not like, oh, well, Terry, he sure can drink.
No, yeah, exactly. You're like,
I don't want that to be my reputation. Like, man, Terry Huddleston busts his ass, he works hard, and I'm going to assume until I'm let down that his kids do the same thing.
Yeah.
That anybody with the Huddleston last name that comes into the comic book industry has the same ethics. As that. Same thing with Spahi. You know, when you do have that little tyke, you want him to come in like, hey man, your father,
Yeah, exactly.
he
He's
did
a grinder.
He did a lot of great things. And that's what he's gonna hear from me anyway. I don't know what your cousins are gonna tell him.
And a lot of people in comics don't come from a lot of people don't come from nothing. A lot of people have connections, and you came and you were like, okay, I'm gonna make it on my own. I'm gonna do it, and that's what you did.
That became. I realized that was my biggest advantage, is that I didn't care about the hierarchy of comics, because that wasn't like they had done nothing for me. Like they weren't the guys that were there for me when I was down and out. So I felt like I owed no allegiance to them. And so like I said before, I came in with a Killmonger chip on my shoulder, like, hey man, I'm gonna take what I want out of this comic book industry, because not only is it like you guys are terrible at business, and I'm not calling on anybody in particular, but just people were just more like flea market people. Like they weren't like, this is a business. Like, don't you guys realize this is a fucking $1 million business? Like, and now it's a $1 billion business, right? And we're still like, oh, here's my, like, guys, no, this is like this is a gold mine that we're sitting on. And if you happen to be alive at this time, and you got the cross section, when you got the skills that we got, like this is what we've been waiting for. This is a paradigm shift of the cliche starving artists to starving artists no more. Like, you don't have to starve anymore if you know how to take this skill we got that used to be useless and make it useful.
Absolutely. It's the way the world has changed.
It's changed. Like, you say writer, like, whatever. Yeah. Now, like, man, people writers.
Like, oh, what do you write?
Like,
oh, you write.
What?
Yeah, movies, TV.
You got a book, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how creatives have become the new rock stars in this new economy, because we live in a consumer, like, they're with YouTube and the movies and television. There's such a glut of consumption of entertainment that they don't have people, because people think that any type of entertainment is something that it's a gift or whatever, like we said before, but it's all skills based. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to learn how to sing, you got to learn how to act, you got to learn how to write, you got to learn how to draw. And so if you have less and less people learning these skills because they're too busy consuming it, it makes a paradigm shift where the 300 of us that are actually professionals at it actually get the benefit, and focus on it, get the benefit from it.
Absolutely.
So, I'm always stressing that to any creative, like, quit beating yourself up. Like, all you gotta do is get on the scene. Yeah. Like, it's like the jazz renaissance right now. Just play a saxophone, you'll be in somebody's band tomorrow.